It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about JitsiMeet. Now, I've done JitsiMeet in the past. I've shown you several different ways to actually get it up and running over the past few years, but I wanted to go over it again because I think it's just a super incredible, valuable open source tool. The company behind Jitsi is amazing. They also can run it for you. If you don't want to go through the trouble of what I'm about to show you to get it up and running, they can help you do that. So if you have an organization or a school that you work for as an IT person, you don't want to support this, or you want to get this set up and you want to have that support, that is a possibility. So you can get out there and contact them and let them know, like, hey, I want to do this for a big organization. I want some help to make sure I get it right. They can provide that for you. Now, this is not a sponsored video. Jitsi is not sponsoring this. Just anytime I do open source software and there's offerings like this, I want to make sure that I point that out because that's how you support the project. But I'm going to show you today how to get Jitsi set up. Not only how to get Jitsi set up, but during the pandemic, Jitsi realized that with their open system, where basically you could just type in meet.jit.si/ and type in whatever you wanted, and that would create a room with that name after that slash. You could send that link to somebody, they could join, you could join, have a really great meeting. It was really cool. But when the pandemic happened and schools and businesses started trying to use Jitsi to solve some of their remote access problems, they realized it was easy for a troll to try tons of URLs and get in and troll those meetings and things. So they put some security around those meetings, and it's really cool. If you go to their site now and you try to join a meeting and you haven't authenticated yet, it'll tell you like, hey, we're waiting for a moderator. And that just means one person, at least one person in this room has to authenticate and say, yes, I'm supposed to be here. Now, you do have the ability to say also, I don't want to allow guests. I want everybody who's in the meeting to have to authenticate. And that's something you might use for a business or a school, for example. But if you're wanting to be able to allow guests to join, then you do want to turn on the guest feature. And again, you kind of get that thing, but you have better moderation tools built into it as well. What does this compete with? This competes with Teams and the Teams meetings. Now, it's not a part of a full chat system, but if you combine this with Matrix or Rocket Chat or Mattermost or any of the others, it becomes a really good competitor to those things like Slack and Teams and all the other ones that are out there. If you combine this with Zulip, those kind of things, you can have some really great meetings. This is not the only open source meeting software by any stretch of the imagination, by the way. There's probably 6 or 7 that I know of off the top of my head that I'll try to cover in the future. One of them is Nextcloud. Nextcloud is really trying to become that Microsoft full competitor with its offering, where you've got the shared storage and the syncing and the tagging and the chat and the video conferencing and the call-in of your video conferencing, and you've got your different Office suite tools and so much more to it. It's just a really, really awesome tool as well. But if you're not looking to go that route, then JitsiMeet might just be the thing for you. So we're going to get into how to set up JitsiMeet with authentication, and not just authentication through Jitsi, but also if you want to set up like something like FreeIPA or open LDAP and use LDAP authentication. I'm going to walk you through what I had to go through to kind of get this figured out for having LDAP authentication as well, so that again you can use that single sign-on that I've talked about in the past. We're going to get into all of that right after this. I just want to say thank you so much to all of the patrons over at Patreon who support this channel every month. It just means so much to me that you find enough value in my content, that you want to support me and you want to keep this channel going. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. To everybody who does a one-off, buy me a beer, buy me a coffee over at PayPal, I truly appreciate that. You just don't understand. Those little notifications come through and they just make my day or they make my week, just because I might be having a tough time, like with these videos I've been trying to do lately, where it's just really a slog to figure out everything I'm trying to get done so I can show it to you guys. And that comes through and it just really makes my day. So thank you very much for that. To everybody who subscribes to YouTube, thank you as well. That really helps the channel grow. It helps the algorithm say, hey, we should present this to more people. And it helps other people learn about incredible open source software. So thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't already done so, go down below the video there and click on the thumbs up, click on the subscribe button, and click on that bell so you get notifications about new videos about incredible open source software. Again, thank you all so much. Truly appreciate it. Now let's get into this video about Jitsi. I just want to point out that Jitsi has some really good documentation. So if you're not somebody who wants to do the installation the way that I'm going to show it, There are multiple ways to get this installed and set up. Scott over at Scottabyte has a video on this as well, and I think he did it more of a let's install it on the bare metal type install. So it's something that would be valuable for you to go watch that if that's the interest you have in how to install Jitsi. I'm going to be using Docker and Docker Compose just because I think Docker is an incredible virtualization system, and it makes it really nice to have something set up that you know the developers said, this is how we need this to work. And it should work right out of the box each time, which is amazing. So we're going to go through that installation, but I did want to point out that in the docs, there is a lot of information here. You can go through as far as a user guide, the community, developer guide. If you're a developer and you're interested in doing something for Jitsi, you can check that out. And then here's the self-hosting guide, which is the part that most of us are probably going to be interested in. And they're going to give you a bit of general advice. They're going to talk about the different things that there are. There's video tutorial links here. Maybe mine will be in this one day. They have an FAQ, all kinds of things for you to kind of take into account before you get into this too far. But really and truly, I think this is some great documentation. I wanted you to know about it. All right, now I've gone through this, so I'm going to take you through this. And the first thing you're going to need, and I'm going to talk about a few things you need. You're going to need a server, and that can be a virtual server. It can be an LXC, LXD, or Incas container. It can be the machine you're sitting in front of right now if you really want it to. It could be a VPS out there on Linode or DigitalOcean or any of those guys. It's really up to you where you're going to run this, but you want to have a really good network connection, because if you have a meeting with a lot of people in it, or if you have a lot of meetings happening, you're going to want different types of connections, and you're going to want your bandwidth to be able to handle that kind of stuff, especially if everybody's using video and that kind of thing too. So keep that in mind. The other thing you're going to want is you're going to want to have a server with Docker and Docker Compose installed. Now, to do that, if you have a server, I'm already logged into my server and I've got Docker installed, but I'll show you what you do. It's very straightforward. You can do curl, and then we're going to do https://get.docker.com, and then the pipe, that's that vertical character there, and then sh. And what this says is, hey, use curl, go out to this site and download the script, and then run that script using the sh, the shell, so that it can install Docker for me. And what this does is it installs Docker CE and Docker Compose on your system. Now I'm running a Ubuntu-based system here. If you're running CentOS, Fedora, Red Hat, Debian, doesn't matter, it should work. There may be a few distros out there, depending on what you're running, that this script won't work for some reason, but they should have instructions where you can go get how to install it for your system if you need to. But this is the easy way. If you happen to be running one of the mainline kind of server systems, this will install it for you, and you'll be set. You'll have Docker and Docker Compose installed. And if you want to validate that you have that installed, you can do Docker PS. Now, this may not work because I may not have added my user to the Docker group yet. Let's see if I did. Oh yeah, I did. So one of the other things after you install Docker and Docker Compose, if you don't want to have to write sudo every time to run like Docker PS, then you can add yourself to the Docker group. So let's do that real quick. We're going to do user mod -a capital G. Docker is the group name, and then the user we want in that group. And when you do this, it says, hey, add Brian to the group Docker. And it's user mod. Now, because I'm running it as a non-root user, I would have to do sudo user mod. But once I do that, type in my password, I become part of the group. And then the next thing you need to do is log out. So I can do exit, and then you can just log right back in. And I'll just log in. And then once you've done that, you can now just do Docker whatever command, and you'll be able to run your Docker commands. Now, I don't have anything installed on this system yet, so we're going to get that started. We're going to create our folder structure. So we're going to do mkdir-p. We're going to do Docker, and we're going to do Jitsi, just like that. And that's going to get us set up. Now, I can cd into that folder, just like that, and we should be set for this part. Now, there's a few things we're going to do here to get everything ready. First, you want to make sure that you've got ports open, your firewall's allowing traffic through if it needs to. If you're going to run this behind a reverse proxy, don't sweat it. If you're going to run it through a VPN, that's my recommendation. From the outside world especially, definitely do that. But yeah, we'll have a lot of different things we're going to go through. So I'm going to go check out my nodes because I want to make sure that I've got everything that I've been doing to get this running. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a wget command right here. And I'm just going to paste this in, and we'll go through what this command says. So this says use wget. And then we're going to use that to curl, and we're going to go out to api.github.com and the repos Jitsi, and then the Docker Jitsi repo. And then it's going to go out here to the releases, and it's going to grab the latest release version. And it's going to say grep zip. It's going to look for the zip file that they've got, and then it's going to say cut -d and then -f4. So this just says go grab the right thing that we need and pipe that out to these systems. So we're just going to hit enter. It's going to go do that, and it's done. And if you look here, we've got this zip file. So we need to unzip this file right here. Now for that, you need the unzip tool installed. So if I do unzip right now, it's going to say, hey, I don't know that command. If you get that, you just need to install the unzip tool. So for me, I'm using Debian and Ubuntu. I've got to do sudo apt install unzip like that, -y. It's going to prompt me for my super user password here. And it's going to go grab the unzip package. And now I can do, let's see, we're going to do unzip stable, just like that. So it's going to just be that file that we already downloaded. We're just going to unzip that guy. It's going to go get everything unzipped. And if we do an ls now, we'll see that we've got this folder called jitsi-docker-jitsi-meet- whatever this version is. If you don't want to type this in every time, you can change the name of that by using the move command. So move is kind of like rename also. So we're going to do mv jitsi, and we're just going to hit the tab to get it to go all the way out. And we're just going to call this JitsiMeet, just to make it easier. Now if we do an ls, we see we've got a much shorter name. It's a little bit easier, that's all. JitsiMeet, and we're going to cd into that guy, just like I did right here. And then if you hit ls, you'll see there's a bunch of files inside of this zip folder that we just extracted. So we've got a few things. We've got this docker-compose.yaml file. We're going to make a backup of that, and then we're going to copy it into a different file. We've also got this env.example file. We're going to copy that into a separate file name as well, and we're going to use the env example file to really do all of our configuration. And the docker compose file or the compose file we're going to create is the one that we're going to use to bring up all of our containers. So we're going to kind of go through all of this together here. So first thing, let's just make a backup of our docker compose file. So let's just do cp docker-compose.yaml to docker-compose.yaml.bak. So when I'm typing, I just start typing the beginning of it and I hit tab. And when you do tab completion in the shell, it's really nice because it helps you type faster, but it just completed that for me. And then I started typing it again, I hit tab, and then I just went back and added a .bak. So that becomes my .backup file. So now if I do an ls, you can see I've got both of those. Now I'm also going to clear that out, and I'm just going to do ls one more time, and I'm going to say let's move our docker-compose.yaml file to a file called compose.yaml, just like this. This is kind of the new version that Docker Compose looks for by default. You can leave it as this if you want to, but this is kind of the newer way that I've seen it. So we're going to do the next thing, we're going to copy our env file. Now we're going to do cp env.example, and then we're going to hit a space, and we're going to do .env. So we're going to turn this into a hidden file. The dot means that this is a hidden file. Okay, we're going to keep that version of it. So if we do ls, you'll see there's still env.example, but we don't see the .env. That's because we just did ls. If we do ls space -a, we're going to see the .env. So here's .env and then env example. We want to modify this one, and we want to modify this one if we have to, but if we don't have to, we won't. Really, we want to make all of our modifications here in .env if we can. So we're going to do nano.env. We're going to make our modifications in our environment file here. Now there's some comments. Anything with the pound sign at the beginning of the line is a comment. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're going through this. So the first thing it sets is what directory do we want this thing to be putting stuff in? And it's going to create one at the home / level. So tilde means home. Then it's going to create a file called .jitsi-meet-cfg. That's fine. It's a folder, and it's going to be where all of the configuration goes. It's okay. I don't want it to be at tilde. I'm going to get rid of the tilde, and I'm going to put a dot. And what this means is, inside of the folder where I'm currently working, create another folder called .jitsi-meet-cfg, and that's where I want my configurations. I want to keep everything inside of this folder that I'm working in right now that we renamed earlier to jitsi-meet. That's where I want everything. Next is our HTTP port. 8000 is fine. Unless you have something already using 8000, you would want to change this. It's up to you, but you could change this to any port number that's valid and not in use. Some people might want to put it at 80. I think 8000 is just fine. We don't need to change it. The HTTPS port 8443, if there's something already using this, again, you can change this to something else. Just keep in mind what you're changing these to, because we'll need them later. For the time zone, I don't want UTC. I'm going to make it America/Chicago. You want to use a proper time zone for wherever you live, but mine is Central Time, so I'm going to use America Chicago. As we go down, we're going to set up a public URL for this Meet setup just so that we can try it. And so I'm going to change this, and I'm going to uncomment it by removing that hashtag. I'm going to go over here, and I don't need to put the port because I'm not going to have an ending port. I'm going to make it so that it's available through just the domain. So I'm going to leave it as Meet, and we're going to do opensourceisawesome.com. And then I'm going to go down. And we've got a few things here, and it says JVB advertise IP. So you can set up multiple IP addresses for where this is going to be running. In my case, it's not going to run at 192.168.1.1. It's going to run at the IP address of my server here, which is 10.124. And then I do have another IP address that it might be running at. So I would want to put that in if it's kind of advertising its IP, but it's going to be proxied. So I need to make sure that I'm getting the proper IP address for where I'm going to proxy it from, and you want that to be a public IP address if at all possible. So I'm going to go to my server to get the public IP address, and we'll come back and put that in. Let me show you guys how I'm going to do that. I believe I'm logged into it right here. So I'm going to bring this over real quick, and I'm going to enlarge the font. And if you want to know what your IP address is, you can do IP-BR-4A like this. And in Linux, it will show you all your IP addresses for your different sockets and things. So here, this is the one that I want right now. I know this is the one that I need, so I'm just going to Control-Shift-C to copy that. I'm going to move it back over here out of the way. And right here, I'm going to do Control-Shift-V like Victor and paste that in. So I've got two IPs that it's going to advertise as well. As we go down, you've got a lot of different things that we can set. So we can set up our video bridge max memory size, which is 3072 megabytes, so a little over 3 gigs, I guess. Completely up to you what you want to set this to, but you can set up your max memory for your JCOFO and your video bridge. I don't know if we need to change that number. I think I would just leave it for now and see how things work, and you can always go increase it if you need to later. As we go down, we've got this enable JAAS components, and it says if Let's Encrypt is enabled, a JAAS account will be automatically created. So I don't know that we need to have this one set. I think we're going to leave it alone. Let's Encrypt configuration. I'm going to use a reverse proxy for this, so I don't need to configure Let's Encrypt either. Etherpad. Now there is an option for Etherpad if you want to run Etherpad with Jitsi, but I don't have it running right now, so I don't want to set it up, so I'm not going to undo any of this. That's a whole different video. Since I don't have this set up right now for Etherpad, I don't want to uncomment this, and the same way with the whiteboard. So the whiteboard is also something that's available to have on Jitsi meetings, but again, I don't have it set up right now, so I'm not going to uncomment that. As we go down, we've got this SIP option. So if you have a SIP server that you would like to have working with this, or set up a SIP server, you can do that. Again, you need to have that set up before you uncomment all these things. So a separate video. There's a lot here. Now, under the authentication, this is where we get into the meat of it. With what we have set right now, and I'll talk about this. With what we have set right now, we could save this. We could just do Control-O and Enter, and then we could exit this thing and go start Docker Compose up-D, and Jitsi would run. And you would be able to create meetings and join meetings, but it's going to be an open system, which means anybody can go to your URL if they know it, and then create meetings and run meetings, and you just never know what people are doing. So for me, that's a little bit not ideal, unless you're willing to take that on as a risk of wanting to run that publicly. So for me, setting up the authentication is pretty important. And what happens is when you try to go into start a meeting, when you hit, join the meeting after you put your name in, it's going to tell you, hey, at least one moderator has to log into this meeting if you have the guest access enabled. If not, then it's going to say like everybody needs to authenticate to join this meeting. So it's up to you how you set that up. If you want everyone to authenticate, you would go here under this enable auth equals 1. That's it. uncomment it, you're set there. This one, if you want to allow guests, you need to uncomment this as well. And it says, if authentication is enabled, this allows users to be held, and basically it scrolls out there. We can go look at it, but it says it allows users to be held basically in a waiting area until a registered user lets them in. So it kind of gives you that power of saying like, hey, I needed you to join this meeting, but you're not going to be able to get in until I get in and actually start the meeting. That's what you're doing when you enable guests. So for me, that's valuable because maybe I don't have every single person in my organization may have logins, but we have clients that we have to work with who aren't going to have logins for my organization. So once you've enabled auth and you've enabled guests, the next thing you need to do is decide what kind of authentication do you want to use. And they've got 4 different kinds. You can use the internal, which is built into Jitsi. It's already set right here. All you have to do is uncomment this right here, which is what we're about to do. You can use the Java Web Token. I tried to get this to work. I was really hoping to get it to work, and I never did. I tried. But the other one is LDAP. So you can also use LDAP, and that's the one we're going to talk about today because I set up a FreeIPA server recently on a video, and we're going to use that to do our LDAP so that you can have people that are in your FreeIPA server using the LDAP, and you can connect that to Authentic, and you get all kinds of really cool stuff. The last one is if you have a Matrix server and it has all the login stuff, you can try to connect it to Matrix. I have not tried to do that one, so I couldn't even start to talk about it, but it is an option. So LDAP is the one we're going to cover after we cover internal. First we'll do internal. I'll show you how to go back and reset. If you decide you want to do LDAP later, you can. But first we need to just uncomment this. We're going to go down. So you see here's this Java Web Token authentication. There's nothing else to be done. Internal is set. Enable guests. If you want it, set it to 1. If not, just comment it out and it won't be set. And then enable auth needs to be set to 1 if you want to have auth type turned on. If you like this one here requires this one and vice versa. So these two, if you uncomment them, you need to set it properly. This one is optional. You can uncomment it or leave it commented out. It's up to you. But this just says, I'm enabling authentication. It's going to be the internal authentication built into Jitsi. And then here are my guests that I'm going to add so that they can join after I authenticate. So let's go down. This is all of your JWT stuff. And then you get into your LDAP settings. So there's a lot of stuff here that you need to kind of go through. But I'll tell you, I went through it. I figured out how to use FreeIPA to do this. And I'll talk about how I did it. There may be other things you want to go in and change at some point when you learn more about it, or if you know more about it than I do, great. But there's a lot of LDAP settings there. And then here's the security side. So you've got XMPP and it's a Jacofo auth password. So the next thing we need to set up before we do all that other stuff is these passwords right here. Now they have a little script that says gen password. So I'm going to save my changes so I don't lose them. And I did Control O and Enter to save my changes. I'm going to do Control X to exit. And if you look, there's this little script that says gen passwords.sh. So let's do /gen passwords.sh. Now, you're like, what did that do? I didn't see it do anything. Where did it go? That's a great question. So we're going to go look back in our env file. It may have put it in env example, but let's just check nano.env. We'll go back down. So we got to scroll down a little ways. Get past all of our authentication stuff, JWT, LDAP. And then there's these passwords. So it filled in the passwords for us. Don't worry that you're seeing them. I'm going to destroy this instance after I'm done. But I just ran that script and it filled in these nice, strong, long passwords for us. There was nothing that I had to do manually to go come up with 5 or 6 different passwords. So you want to make sure these are all filled in. We've got some Docker Compose options as well. So I'm going to uncomment the unless stopped. I prefer that as the restart policy. The Jitsi image version, I don't want latest. I tried to do latest and it 100% failed and said it couldn't find one for latest. So actually what we want is stable. So we're going to leave that commented out. If you see that and you're like, oh yeah, that's what I want, don't do that. Trust me, it just didn't work. So I'm going to, one more time, I'm going to save my changes and I'm going to exit, Control O, Enter, and then Control X to exit. So we've got that pretty well set up and we've got our Jitsi stuff running, or not running, but we've got our environment variable set up. So now we can just go do Docker Compose pull. The reason I do the pull first is because it tells me like, hey, If this runs, my YAML at least is good and it can read it and it understands what I'm asking for. And if it pulls down all of my images, then I know that I got it set right. If it doesn't pull down your images, or if you get an error, at least you know you need to go fix something before you try to run this. All right, once everything is pulled down, we're going to run a couple of commands concatenated together, and I'll talk about what they are. So first command is docker compose up-d. And what this says is, Docker compose, I want you to go bring up my containers from the images I just downloaded and run them in the background detached or as a daemon. Then we're going to put 2 ampersands. And this says, after that, do this command, which is docker compose logs-f. And this just says, hey, after those are up and running, show me the log output live as it's happening, which the -f means follow those logs. So we're going to hit enter. It's going to try to get up and running here. And we should see some log output, and hopefully we don't see any errors or anything like that just look like super, just brazen, oh my gosh, what happened? Everything here looks okay. Looks like it started up. I'm just going to hit Control-C because it's just a lot of log that you probably don't want to look through anyways. Now we've got to go set up our reverse proxy. So let's go and we'll go to our reverse proxy settings. And actually, I need to set up an A record. I don't think I have my reverse proxy set up for this, but let me double check. Okay, yeah, I do. So cool. So we're going to go in and we're going to set this up as meet. If you remember, we said we wanted our URL to be meet.opensourceisawesome.com. Now, if you've not used a reverse proxy, or if you're not sure what I'm doing here, I've got videos on that. I'll do my best to remember to link them in the description and the show notes so that you can get this set up. But a reverse proxy basically just says, I'm running this application in front of all of my other services, and if somebody makes a request for meet.opensourceisawesome.com, they will either get to my reverse proxy, which will say, hey, yeah, I know where to send you, or they're going to get rejected and just get a congratulations page that just tells them, hey, like you reached something, but you didn't reach what you were looking for. So we use the reverse proxy as kind of a traffic cop for accessing our services. So that IP address was 192.168.10.124. And I'm going to use 8000 was the port. I'm going to say block common exploits, WebSocket support, and then I'm just going to do save. And then I'm going to go look up meet and make sure I'm setting this all up correctly because I've got my Lubbock lug thing. I did use the secure port for this, so I do want to go switch that. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to edit. And I'm going to do actually HTTPS. And if you'll remember, that HTTPS port was 8443. So unless you changed it, put it to 8443. Jump over to the SSL tab. We're going to do request a certificate. We're going to say force SSL and accept the Let's Encrypt terms of service. We're going to hit save. Now, if this little window just goes away with no errors, then we should get a Let's Encrypt certificate. If we get an error, we'll see a box up here that's very generic and just says error. It's not useful, doesn't help us a lot. Now the other thing I like to do is I go back in, I'm going to edit this one more time, I'm going to go back to the SSL tab and I'm just going to enable these other 3 options, save it one more time, and now we're just going to click, and if everything's working we should see the Jitsi site. Yes, we see it, okay? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say test room 1239 or something 0, that's fine. I'm going to hit go. It's going to come here and it's going to say, hey, I'm going to see if I can access a camera or a mic, so you can see the little spinners, and it's going to come up and say, hey, can I access this? And I'm going to tell it, here, you can access this one. And then there's my face. Sorry, it's not my fault that I'm not beautiful. And then I'm going to put in my name here, and I'm going to click on go. And this is exactly what I expect to happen. It's going to say, hey, you don't have a moderator, but we haven't created an account for a moderator yet. So you're thinking, how do I log in? And that's a great question. So let's close that. We know it's working. That's great. Let's go back, and we need to go back to our terminal here, and we've got to run some command line commands to get this thing to give us an actual admin user. We create the users from inside the Jitsi containers, and in this case it's the Proxy container. So we can see what that container name is by doing docker compose ps, and it's going to give us a lot of output. Now it's kind of ugly, but if you'll notice, the first thing it shows, it's 2 lines. It's name, image on the first line, and the second line is status and ports. So we're looking for the one that says name. So we've got JitsiMeet Jacofo, JitsiMeet JVB, JitsiMeet Prosody 1. That's the one that we want. So we need to jump into that container. So we're going to do docker exec -it, and we're going to do JitsiMeet, maybe Prosody 1, and then /bin/bash. And that jumps us into the container. So we say, hey Docker, execute an interactive terminal on the container JitsiMeet Prosody 1, and I want this to be a bin bash a bin bash terminal. Sorry. If it doesn't work with bash, you can try /bin/sh. Sometimes they don't have bash in the container. It just depends on what the container base is. But in this case, bash worked. Now we need to use a command like this, and it's going to use the prosody ctl. And it says config/prosody.cfg.lua register, and then we want to put in a user's name here, and we'll just register me, and I'm just going to say Brian, and then meet.jitsi is an internal referral to the Jitsi service, so leave that as it is. And then here we need to put in a password for our user, so let's just do PASSW0RD1234 #, something like that. I don't know. Let's see if that'll work, and we're going to hit enter. And it says event not found, so it doesn't like the last part of that where I typed in that password. Let's try this again, and I'll just get rid of these things. And we'll leave off the symbols here. All right, it says user account created, brian@meet.jitsi. Now this is important. You need to pay attention that it says brian@meet.jitsi. So let's go back to our URL here, and we'll just click to open it back up. Let's create that test meeting again. And we'll go in, and it's already got me. I'm set. I've already told it can use my camera and mic, so it should be able to do that. It keeps asking about this one. I don't want it to use that one. There we go, and it's got my audio now, it's got my video. So I'm going to click go. It's going to come up and say, hey, you need to authenticate. So I'm going to put in brian@jitsi.meet, and then we're going to put in that password we just created, which was PASSW0RD4, I believe. And we'll hit go. Let's see if I got it. Oh, no, I didn't. So yeah, my auth didn't match. I'm sorry, that's very hard to read. It says it couldn't connect me to the conference, the no match, so we'll just try this again. And luckily I kept my password up on the screen back here, so don't forget what you type in. I'm pretty sure I typed that right, but let me just Control-Shift-C for copy. And then we'll go here, we'll paste. It's still saying it didn't work. Let me just try just my name, but I don't think that's going to work. Hey, it did. Okay. No, yeah, there we go. Okay, started the meeting. That's awesome. Sorry. So you don't need the @jitsi.meet. You just need your username and then the password that you put in. And now I'm authenticated, and other people could join this meeting, and they would not be asked to authenticate because I allowed guests. If I don't allow guests, every person is going to be asked to authenticate, and you'll need to go through that whole process that we just did in order to create a different user for each person. So you'd have to run this again, change the username, set a password, run this again, change the username, set a password. Sadly, there is not a web user interface to allow your users to register themselves. It's just this is how it works. So for me, the internal authentication is great if you're kind of a single user, or maybe there's 2 or 3 of you and that's it. But again, if you have an organization, something like LDAP is going to be your friend, or Matrix if you want to try that one. But LDAP is more the way to go. So why don't we jump over and I'll show you how to reset this thing, and we'll get into the LDAP configuration so that you can see that as well. Now in this case, I expect that you have an open LDAP server or a FreeIPA server available, and if you haven't and you're looking to get that set up, I've got videos on FreeIPA. I've got a recent one that I suggest you check out, and it'll help you get that set up, and then you'll have the ability to do some LDAP authentication. This video is sponsored by me. That's right. Did you know that I wrote a novel? I did. And it's a science fiction novel. It follows a guy named Dave, who's a pretty normal guy with a normal job, who happens to fall into a little bit of a less normal job, but doesn't realize it. He goes on some incredible adventures. He has some really cool things that he has to get done. It's just a passion project. I think you're going to love it. It's an action. It's an adventure. It's just so much fun. I understand if you don't want to do Patreon or PayPal, but maybe you'd like to get something out of some money that you're donating back to me. So by buying a book, you're paying me back, and at the same time, you're getting something out of it. You can jump over to Amazon. I'll have links in the description. You can jump over and get the ebook, the paperback, or the hardcover. I'll have links for as many countries as I can get links for, so no matter where you are, you can get a copy of the book. It is English only. It has not been translated. I just do want to put that out there, but I hope you'll get it. I hope you'll enjoy it, and let me know that you enjoyed it as well. Now let's get back to the program. Now that we've done the internal authentication, we're actually going to go back, and now we're going to do the LDAP version. So we're going to have to go in and make a couple of changes to our env file. This won't be super complicated. We're just going to do docker compose down, and then we're going to wait for it to stop those containers. Just takes a few seconds for that usually, and it just depends on your system, like I said, again, as to how long that'll take, but it shouldn't take very long. And then once those are down, we need to get rid of that configuration file. So if we do ls-al, in fact, we can just do ls-a, and you can see there's this .jit configuration file somewhere right here, this JitsiMeet.cfg. So we're just going to get rid of that. So we're going to do sudo rm-rf.jit, and we can start just tabbing in that, just going to get rid of that. We're going to authenticate, and that should be gone now, and it is. Great. Now we're going to go and edit our env file. So we're going to do nano.env, and we can just scroll down, and we can actually do Control W to search, and we can do LDAP, and that should jump us down pretty far towards our LDAP stuff. But we're going to do it one more time, just Control W and hit enter, and that'll get us down to the LDAP authentication section. Now above this, we do need to make one change. So right up here, we have already enable auth equals 1 and enable guest equals 1, and again, that was up to you. But the auth type we need to change. So we're going to go here, we're going to get rid of this one that says internal, and we're going to use LDAP. And you know what your options are, because here's internal, here's JWT, here's LDAP, and here's matrix. So matrix, LDAP, JWT, and internal over here. So we're going to use LDAP in this case. As we go down, we need to uncomment a few things. So it's down here in this LDAP section. The LDAP URL is the first one we're going to have to do, and we need to change that to be the actual URL that we're going to use. So, and you're going to need a few things actually. So we're going to do the LDAP URL, which is actually the URL of your LDAP server. In this case, mine is FreeIPA.LDAP, not LDAP, .fixitdelrio.local. Sorry, I got LDAP on the mind here. And I'm actually going to take out the S from here because I'm doing it locally. I'm not going to use the SSL side of it. So I'm just going to do it like this so that it's just LDAP://FreeIPA.fixitdelrio.local. Now the next thing we're going to need is this LDAP base. So I'm going to uncomment that line. And here where it's got these different values, we need to know what values to put in there. If you're not sure what values to put in, you can go to your LDAP server. So let me open up another terminal and I'll show you exactly where to look. So on FreeIPA anyways, I can show you exactly where to look. So let me expand this, and then I'll make the font a little bit bigger. And then we can do that and clear, and we'll do a SSH authenticate. And when we get in here, you can go and find, just do a cat/etsy/LDAP, like this. And you can see here's all of my details for my local IPA server. And right here, we've got this base DN. So this is the base DN that they're looking for. Now we've got to add a couple of other things to it, but that base DN is going to help you quite a bit with getting the right things you need. Here's your host right here, and then here's your LDAP URL. So you can always kind of look for that as well. Now this is not the way that you would want to put it. You'd actually want to do it more like this type of thing. But in this case, this is to get to the XML if we needed it. And you can see it's production. So nothing special there, but it does help you find what your base DN is if you need that. And you do need that on some things. So I'm just going to clear that. We'll exit out of that. Exit. There we go. And I'm going to enlarge this font a little bit. I'm sorry I had it small again there. So you can see that we don't have all the right things that we need in this case. So we're going to go down here and we're going to, I'm just going through my notes to make sure I get the right things set up. And for our LDAP base, we can just remove this. And we're going to start off with our CN, which is equal to accounts. So this is one that you need to have that's not in that base system. Then we're going to do DC equals Fixit Del Rio, comma, DC equals local. So these are domain components. So this Fixit Del Rio and this domain component local are two things that we need. That's from that base DN that we saw, base domain name. And then this is the CN, which is the accounts. And I want to say that this is a client name. It's also part of a group, so we're just going to use that because that's how FreeIPA lists it. So as we go down, we don't need the user DN and we don't need the user password. On the LDAP filter, we do need this. And we're going to keep the %U and the equal sign. We're just going to get rid of this part that says SAM account name. So we're going to put here a UID. So it should be, we're going to uncomment this. So it'll be LDAP underscore filter equals open parentheses UID equals %U and close parentheses. And we're just going to save as we go along here. So Control O and Enter just so we don't lose our changes. Our LDAP auth method, I don't believe we need. Let me just double check my notes, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yeah. And then the only other one we need actually is way down here. We're going to go down to this one that says use TLS equals 1. We're just going to uncomment that. And again, we're going to save with Control O and Enter, and then we can probably be done. We're just going to go, let me go check my notes just to make sure I got everything. LDAP version 3. We want to uncomment this one also. I knew I was forgetting something. So make sure you have LDAP version equals 3 and then LDAP underscore use underscore TLS equals 1, and those should be uncommented along with your LDAP filter and the ones we did above. And we're going to save one more time with Control O and Enter and then exit with Control X. And we've got our LDAP set up for that part. Now there's one more thing you may have to do depending on how your FreeIPA server is set up. So as I said, my FreeIPA server is set up as a local server. So if I do ping FreeIPA.fixitdelrio.local, it's not going to know what to do. So this server doesn't know where that is. So the first thing I want to do is set up my server to be set up with FreeIPA. So I'm going to do sudo nano /etc/hosts. And I'm just going to create a line or two up here at the top. And actually I just need one. So I'm going to do 192.168.10.172. This is the IP address of my FreeIPA server. I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to do FreeIPA.fixitdelrio.local. Tab one more time, FreeIPA. I'm going to save that with Control O, Enter, Control X to exit. And now if I do ping, you can see that it's able to ping that server and get a response back. So that's step one. Now, that doesn't mean anything for inside of the containers. On the inside of the containers, they don't know how to ping our FreeIPA server, and they need to. So we're going to go into our compose file, and we're going to teach it the same thing we just did in our Etsy host file. So we're just going to do nano compose.yaml, like this. And we're going to go down, and we actually need to find the XMPP server section. Well, it's going to be right above it. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to find the section for Prosody. So we can just type in Control W to search. We're going to type in PROSODY and hit enter. And we'll see that it says XMPP server here. It's commented out. And then Prosody. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to this section that says volumes. I'm just going to go out here all the way to the left before it goes to that next line. I'm just going to hit enter once so I don't mess up the spacing. I'm going to space out 8 spaces right there like that. And we're going to put in a new value called extra underscore hosts. We're going to put a colon. We're going to go to the next line. We're going to go out 10 spaces. And actually we should do 12 because this one's got 4 spaces in it. That's fine. Just want to make sure we keep the spacing the same. So we're going to do a hyphen. And then we're going to put in quotes. We're going to do free IPA colon and then the IP address of our server. And then in the quote like that. So we want to have that inside of double quotes. I'm going to double check my formatting, make sure I got those in the right order. Yes, I do. And then we're going to do this one more time here. We're going to just enter. We're going to do 10 spaces, hyphen space, and then we're going to do a quote. We're going to do the fully qualified domain that I have, fixitdelrio.local, and then a colon, and then again that IP address. So you would of course want to put in whatever your FreeIPA server name is and the IP address for your FreeIPA server. And we're going to hit Control O to save and Control X to exit. And now when we start these up, our Proxy server is going to know how to get to our actual FreeIPA server. And we can go and improve that in just a second. So let's go, let's do Docker compose up-d. We'll give these a second to get started. Oh, I still have version up at the top of my compose.yaml. I need to fix that, but that's okay. Everything should be running. And now we're just going to jump into that Proxy container real quick. So we can do that pretty quickly with docker exec -it, and I think it's JitsiMeet -prosody -1 /bin/bash is what I want. I want the bash shell. So I'm telling it, hey Docker, put me in an interactive terminal inside of the JitsiMeet Prosody 1 container, and I want to be at the bash terminal. If you can't get to the bash terminal, sometimes you have to use the /bin/sh terminal. But in this case, we have bash. Now, if I do ping, it's going to tell me I don't know what that is. So I need to do sudo, I just need to do apt install ping, sudo apt update. Let's just update our apt packages. Oh, it doesn't know sudo apt update. Sorry, it's a Debian container, so it doesn't have sudo install, but it doesn't need it. And now we're going to do apt install ping. I think it's going to give me options. Yeah, it's not called ping, but it's called inetutils-ping or iputils-ping. So we can use either one of those. So we'll do sudo, not sudo. There's no sudo. Apt install iputils-ping. And we'll tell it yes. So this is going to install ping inside of the container. The next time we stop and restart the container, ping will be gone. But now we can do ping FreeIPA, and you can see it comes back with a response because it knows where that is, and it's even giving us the full qualified domain there, and we can even do that full qualified domain. And again, it gives us the response because it knows where it is. So we've told the container how to get to our FreeIPA server with that step, so it's a really important one. We can type exit to get out of the container. And we can clear our logs, and we can do a docker compose ps and just look to make sure everything's up. It says everything's been up for about a minute, 2 minutes, about a minute. So things have started. We can go back to our URL. Now I'm recording this third piece a few days after the other two parts. And I had originally recorded the third part, and I realized I just didn't like the way it came out. So I'm redoing it to make it a little bit smoother and a little bit easier for you guys. So we're going to do meet.opensourceisawesome.com, which is my Jitsi URL right now. And we are going to go here, and we're just going to create, you can see I've got several rooms that I've created here. Let's just do this one. Looks like a good room. And it's going to ask me about my mic and camera, so I'm going to tell it can use the HD webcam. So I'll say allow. And then it's got my name already there, so I'm going to say join. I've been disconnected. It's weird. Sometimes that does happen. Maybe I did something I wasn't supposed to. Okay, let me go check my logs. Maybe I've got something going wrong. Always go to the logs if you're not sure. In redoing this, as I said, I'm redoing this because I didn't like how part 3 came out before. I forgot to uncomment the public URL here. I had changed it to the correct URL, but I had not uncommented it. So when we were running, it was not picking up that variable which it needs. So I've uncommented. I'm going to save and exit, and we'll go back in and just restart Docker. So docker compose up-d, docker compose logs-f. Let's just see if everything gets started up here. I believe that's going to be the problem that I saw. It's getting started. Everything's racing by. It gets that little error early on, but I think later it's able to connect. It's just that initial error for Jacofo that it's like I can't connect because it's not ready yet. But you can see here now it's putting out some data. So it looks like it started. Let's go try this again. So meet.opensourceisawesome.com. That should come up, and it did. Let's try this new test room. It's probably going to prompt me again about the camera. Yes, and we'll give it the webcam here. And I'm going to hit go. And this time you see it's not giving me the error about reconnect, so that's good. And now I need to use my credentials for my Fix-It Del Rio. So I need to go in and actually just grab the right credentials. So let me get my Bitwarden open here. And I'm going to move that to the other screen and log into it. And I'm going to grab my user Brian. Now I know I showed you a user Brian previously that we set up, but this time I'm going to just use my user from FreeIPA, and I'm going to paste in my password there. I'm going to try, just make sure I get the right one. I'm going to do login, and if everything was successful, it should be able to, yeah, it logs me right into the meeting, and now I'm logged in using FreeIPA and LDAP instead of the internal authentication, which means I can go to my FreeIPA server and start adding users, or the users that are on my server have access this way. And it's really a nice way to control who has access and who can start meetings. And then if you don't want the guest access, you can make it so that everybody has to have some kind of FreeIPA account to get logged in and join the meetings. If you want to allow guests but have at least one person from your organization start the meeting, then that's a great way too. So I hope that this helps you. I hope that it makes a difference for you guys, and I hope that everything I've shown you makes sense. I will have very detailed show notes, as always, listed in the description below, along with any affiliate links that help keep the program running. So if you're wanting to put this out on the internet, highly recommend DigitalOcean. It's an incredible provider for VPS software. I am an affiliate. If you click the link and you try them out for 60 days, I think you get $100 or $50 or $100 credit. Once that credit's gone, if you stay with them and you sign up and you pay them, I get a credit. If you don't, I don't. It's fine. But it does support the channel if you do that. So just know that. I've got several others down there. So just thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the open source journey with us. And I'll talk to you next time.